Good afternoon. My name is Karis Reed. I am the CEO and founder of Developing Women of Purpose Rehabilitation Center, bringing a vision into a reality. My vision statement is to rehabilitate women of diverse backgrounds who have experienced psychological trauma which damaged their lives and led them down a path of defective behavior. Developing Women of Purpose will help to reprogram their mind and restore them to a path leading them to their purpose in life. My program will address physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, psychological abuse, and trauma, psychological trauma. Okay, the last video I posted, I was defining those types of abuses, and I was just letting people know that I, as a leader, have to be knowledgeable of these types of abuse so that I can help the women in my program get to the core root and cause of their defective behavior. So whether they've been sexually abused, physically abused, or emotionally and psychologically abused, causing them psychological trauma, my program will help them get to the root cause of their behavior and reprogram that negative mentality, the ditch mentality that they have, causing them to do behaviors that's unhealthy for them and lead them down a path, restoring them to their purpose in life. We all know the psychological emotional abuse deals with the mind, the mentality of the mind of the woman. And that is a form of abuse that is really silent among the world today. Everybody is known about everybody knows and is educated about domestic violence, but very few are known and educated about psychological abuse. And it is a big epic today. It is very silent because psychological abuse lasts way longer than a physical abuse wound, because a physical abuse, you get stabbed or even a black eye, eventually it's going to heal and your color of your pigmentation is going to come back over your eye, or your shot wound is going to heal, your head injury is going to heal, the wound is going to close. But the wound of psychological trauma will last for years and years and years and years, causing these women to then behave in such ways and act out in ways that's very unhealthy for them. Some of the symptoms that psychological abuse cause is shock, denial, disbelief, confusion, difficulty concentrating, anger, very irritable, mood swings, anxiety, fear, feeling guilty, shameful, feeling shame, self-blame, withdrawing from others, which is isolation, feeling sad and hopeless and worthless, and feeling disconnected and numb. Some of the physical symptoms of this psychological abuse is when women are fatigued, when they're startled very easy, difficult concentrating again, a racing heartbeat, sometimes even aches and pains in their body, and muscle tension, and even insomnia or nightmares. I had interviewed a lady about a week ago, and she was needing psychological and drug rehabilitation. And she said, I haven't slept for 3 days. And she said, it's not that I've been doing drugs, but my mind is just going, and things are being played in my mind over and over. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about that. So these are some of the symptoms that psychological abuse and damage and trauma can cause on a woman. And my program is to let these women know that, all the negative feelings that they have about themselves and all the negative anger that they have, even though it's okay at that at that time, because negative emotions is fear, is the regret, is the guilt, it is the worthlessness that they feel. It is the words when they say I can't do it. It is the words when they say I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, I'm so ashamed. But my program will rescue these women from these negative feelings of psychological trauma, anger, sadness, guilt, all these feelings. I will let the women in my program know that it is unacceptable and it's not okay for these feelings to take root, take up a permanent residence in your mind. Yes, it's okay at the time to feel this way because you have been through that psychological trauma. You have to cope with it the way you know how, uneducatedly. But when you educate yourself that it's not okay, and you reaffirm your mind, and you get the positive feedback that you are the opposite of what these negative feelings are telling you, then it's not okay for you to allow these feelings to take a permanent resident in deep down in your heart and in your mind, because then you will let the negative behavior that's permanently there that you won't talk about, you won't uproot, take control of your life, and you'll be doing behaviors that's unhealthy for you. So I'm going to also talk about 3 women who has dealt with psychological trauma and behavior, and they're very popular, and it is real. Madonna, she's a old school artist. When she was 19, she said she was held up at gunpoint and taken to a rooftop to be raped. She said she was afraid to let anyone know, and so it kept the psychological fears inside of her. She said she hid those psychological fears deep inside, and she didn't tell anyone. But she said because of this that happened to her, she became defiant. So she developed a behavior of defiancy, okay, and which is unhealthy behavior. But she said she was so determined to be an artist, you know, and this is where it leads to that path of purpose in life. All these women have a purpose in their life. Her purpose was to be an artist. She was so passionate about being an artist that she overcame that. And she although she held it in, she did not let it stop her from becoming that artist. And now that she's popular, she can talk about it. She can go to get the counseling. She can go get the resources that she needs. Some of these women in my community can't. You know, so that's why I have my program being developed. Pamela Anderson, she was sexually molested at age 6. From age 6 to 10, she was sexually molested. At age 12, she was raped. And then she was gang raped at age 16. She said she had a hard time trusting people. So this psychological damage gave her the behavior of distrust. She said she had thoughts of suicide. She didn't want to be on the earth anymore. But she found healing and solace through a foundation. I think the foundation had something to do with animals. But she overcame that psychological trauma by finding a foundation that healed her emotionally. Okay. One of another lady is Mary J. Blige, and she's very popular. She's an R&B artist. Of course, everyone should know her. Well, should know all these women. She was molested at age 5. 5 years old, Mary J. Blige was molested. She said it destroyed her childhood, and it followed her all her life. She said this followed her all her life, and she dealt with it. She said she dealt with the shame, and she was thinking that the molestation was her fault. It led her to believe that she was worthless. She said it had her to feel that she had no respect for herself. She said she lost self-respect for herself. She hated herself. She said she thought she was ugly. She said it led to her behavior of alcoholism, drugs, sex. She said whatever it took for her to feel better, that's what she did. So this psychological trauma is real, and it leads women to these types of behaviors. Okay, but with the help of a friend that she has, she was able to open up a children's abuse shelter, and then she made a tribute with the album. Her recent album was a tribute to people who've been in all types of abuse and traumas. So I say that to say this: psychological damage, trauma, abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse is running rampant today. These women, people probably even know these things happened to them, you know, when they were young. And this is what a lot of women in my program would have experienced: psychological trauma and events that happened in their childhood, in their early adulthood, teenage years, years and years and years ago. So that's what my program is going to be doing for women in my community. I'm going to help them overcome these negative emotions, help them talk about their feelings, help them overcome the negative mindset in their life to have their purpose in life. Thank you.